Let's look at the poem Dulce et Decorum. Winfred Owen wrote this while he was fighting as a soldier during the First World War. And the poem really has a ton of imagery. It graphically and bitterly describes the horrors of that war, although these horrors could be applied to any war. Um, it has this first person feel to it too, that we can see the author has gone through this. We see the daily lives of a soldier and how excruciating and brutal the reality of death is. It's this unimaginable agony. And the way that Owen uses this language to put readers inside of the experiences of a soldier starts to help the rest of the world really understand what's going on. So I'll read it to you and then talk about it briefly. Bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep, many had lost their boots, but limped on bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas, gas, quick, boys! An ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time, but someone was still yelling out and stumbling and foundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty panes in thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face like a devil sick of sin. If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cut of bile, incurable sores on innocent tongues. My friend, you would not tell which sighs with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory, the old lie, dulce et decorum. So powerful poem. The images should have been there as you listened. And it really starts off with the author taking us readers into this suffering of wartime as the speaker's regiment walks from the front lines to an undescribed place of distant rest. And we're not seeing men driven by purpose or thrilled by battle. Instead, they're miserable. They're coughing like hags. They're cursing as they trudge through sludge with bloody feet. They march asleep, suggesting that these soldiers are kind of like a living dead. The terror and the brutality of war has killed them. The speaker is clear that the life of a soldier is painful and demoralizing. In the second stanza, which moves from describing this regiment of these men who are suffering, and it switches to a gas attack, which was a feature of First World War. Um, so they're crying out gas, and then it's followed by the men fumbling and still tired, and they have clumsy helmets, and we get a description of a certain man unable to get his helmet on in time. He's stumbling like a man in fire. And while the speaker can only watch helplessly from within his own mask, the other soldier's death is watched. They see the pain. There isn't even an enemy to face. It's a physically agonizing death with no ideal or purpose to hold on to. The third stanza is very short, which is done purposely. It plunges back into the speaker's mind, and the poem reveals an aspect of the horror of that war, that even surviving soldiers are tormented. The surviving speaker describes himself as seeing in all my dreams this man dying in agony. The speaker can't escape this vision, which means he can't ever achieve the rest that was the sole positive thing mentioned in the first stanza. He's permanently haunted by the trauma of the death he witnessed. Also, to note that third stanza is written in present tense, which indicates that these dreams never faded away. The speaker who survived is still here today, and it's still affecting him. Um, Poem goes on to talk about in all my dreams before by helpless sight he plunges me, guttering me, choking, drowning. This image doesn't go away. The last stanza continues. In some of the smothering dreams, you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in and watch the white eyes writhing in his face. This poem really talks about how horrible war is. Many times, war is like this vision of this wonderful thing that these soldiers are heroes, which they are, but it's seen as positive, and not often enough is it looked at um, as the horrors and the pain. So the last stanza is kind of a way that by imagining that the poem could effectively communicate to non soldiers the brutality of war and highlighting it for others can see and feel the horrifying truth of the actual war, that maybe it will change the attitude towards war. The author is concerned of how young men were sent to war cheerfully and they were just children, and he could see that they were going to die in agony. But to read the poem in that way requires the readers to really believe that empathy is enough to change central beliefs, and that's a huge question. Overall, this poem is a horrifying, hard to read image of what war is, and that's what the author is hoping to show.